Never heard that
Yeah.
before. That's such a wild
Yeah, I'm
idea.
not saying that's 100% true. I read it
Poke,
on, I
poke a
read it.
child in the cheek quite
Yeah.
hard and see if it
That's in
doesn't
the
feel
category
pain.
of I read it on Twitter and I did one level confirmation on it, but it's so ludicrous that I should probably do two or three level confirmations on it before I talk
Hmm.
about it.
Hmm.
Um, but there are definitely some people who believe that. There are enough that it was a thing, in certain circles for a while. But I think we just go through these, these IYI beliefs, these intellectually idiot beliefs come from people who, take a little bit of knowledge and extrapolate it too far. They think we know more than we know due to recent scientific studies. And these are junk science. These are low power studies on, on very certain contexts that then get over applied. Behavioral psych is very guilty of this, but it's true across a lot of science. So even with science, you have to be skeptical. You have to look very carefully at, does it apply in the right context or not? Does it come from good sources? Did they run enough high powered studies that are widely accepted? And there are a whole bunch of things you're just not supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to say, like, you don't say, like, you can't say anything negative about vaccines because God forbid, what if they don't get the polio vaccine, right? And that's part of the reason why the recent vaccine debate, because we've taken our worship for vaccines too far because we don't want people to not take non-essential vaccines. So it gets
Hmm.
overdone. So the same way there's this whole SIDS thing, sudden infant death syndrome, right? I was like, no, kids don't suddenly mysteriously die. Like more likely there was neglect or there was a problem. And then whoever was the caretaker doesn't want to admit to the problem or didn't recognize the problem, but kids
Hmm.
don't just spontaneously die in the crib, right? So they talk about swaddling babies. You swaddle babies, basically tie them up, mummify them. So you constrict them so they don't die of SIDS where they roll over and they can't get back. I mean, it's just all this craziness around child
Dang.
raising.
It's a real minefield.
It's a minefield. And you have these scared parents, they're having a kid for the first time and they open a book and they start reading how to raise children. And I would argue that your natural instincts on what to do with your child,
Hmm.
are actually pretty good. It's funny when, my wife and I had our first baby, I remember, at the hospital, sorry, the first one was a natural birth, at the birthing center, we went home and it was like, there you go. That's it. And we're like, what do we do? Where's the instruction manual? And you
Hmm.
take him home. And then you relax and you realize actually instincts are pretty good. If the kid cries, check to see if they clean, feed them, all that. It's like your basic instincts are actually very, very good. And kids' instincts are actually very, very good. They know what they want and they want things for a reason.
And they can encourage you to give it to them.
Yes, it's usually, children are not deficient adults who can't reason. Uh, and to some extent that's true, but mostly it's not true. Mostly they have very good reasons for what they want. And you as a parent mostly have communication problems with them. They can't yet communicate to you. You can't communicate to them. They can't communicate to you. So early on with my kids, I tried to focus on teaching them, basic explanatory theories as opposed to having them memorize
Sorry,
things.
that's just the most
Yeah.
the most Naval
No,
solution.
but I'll give you a very simple example.
Right. Okay. So
Like,
this is Twitter,
yeah,
and this
exactly.
is
Right.
this is the how to get rich without getting lucky thread.
Right.
So the first one.
Well, a simple one is, how does knowledge get created? If you follow the critical rationalism, David Deutsch philosophy, then it's by guessing and then by testing your guesses. So whenever they ask me something like, well, why do you think that is? Well, how would we figure out if that's true, right? So that's a basic game you can play
Involving them.
involving them. But another one is that, a lot of the rules that you teach kids have to do with hygiene, right? You must brush your teeth, cover your mouth when you cough, clean up after yourself. Don't touch that. Wash your hands after you do this. Don't eat food off the floor, right? But all of these are subsumed under the germ theory of disease. Right. So if you instead go on YouTube and show them videos of germs, or if you have them look under a microscope at anything, they're like,
They can infer what's going
yeah,
on.
there's creepy crawlies everywhere and I
Yep.
got to watch out for them. And then, you can talk about how if you look at humans, like our real enemy are pathogens. I think a lot of aging and disease are actually downstream of our competition with pathogens over time, to a point that people still don't fully appreciate. There's a Red Queen hypothesis, which is that we undergo sexual selection to mix up our genes. And so every 20 years, every generation mix up your genes. But if you look at how bacteria and viruses mutate through just random mutations, their mix-up rate on their genes and evolution rate is roughly the same as ours, even though they go through thousands of generations, those 20 years, because they're not doing sexual selection, they're doing asexual replication and mutation. Their evolutionary rate is roughly equivalent to ours. So we're in a Red Queen race where we're both running at roughly the same speed using very different strategies.
Mhm.
But a lot of how we're involved is around pathogens. Like our immune system is one of the most expensive things to run the body. Is so much is about immune system optimization. That's about pathogens. Junk DNA in bacteria and CRISPR was discovered because in bacteria, their DNA is evolved to fight viruses. And the way it does that is by taking viral DNA and snipping it up every time there's a viral attack and storing it in their own DNA so they have a copy so they can recognize it next time it attacks and, and so on. A lot of the population structure of species determines how long their lifespans are. So if in a given species there's a very high rate of infection, then you'll have these older members of the population are carrying diseases that will then infect the young.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for that species to get rid of the old faster. So the higher the disease rate in a given population, the less long-lived the entire population. So the older ones don't infect the younger ones.
Oh,
that's a hypothesis. I'm not saying it's
pretty
true.
interesting.
It's an interesting hypothesis. Homeostasis within the human body, how we're always returning to a given level of things. Like that's a fundamental part of our makeup, our temperature, pH, blood pressure, and so on under homeostasis. But if you engage in any kind of signaling, like you take a peptide, for example, that's a signaling molecule. You take a hormone externally, the body will counteract it. You take testosterone, the body will downregulate its own production very fast. And the body releases its own hormones in pulses rather than steady state. Why is that? Well, that's because, bacteria and viruses can infect your body and trick your body. They can take it over, like toxoplasmosis does this, rabies does this. They take over macroscopic structural bodies. And small bacteria and viruses would hack our bodies and literally take them over if we didn't have defense mechanisms. And one of those defense mechanisms is homeostasis. Anytime you see something getting out of whack, you immediately push back really hard on it because, like, did I just get infected? Is something trying to take me over? It's also why hormones get released in pulses at night rather than in steady state low levels, because enemy bacteria can release toxins or the same signaling molecules in small quantities, but they can't pulse. They can't coordinate to pulse. Mm-hmm. So your body can coordinate to pulse as a macroscopic object, but microscopic objects can't coordinate to create the same pulses.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So there's there's
so you know that it's coming from you. Is that why?
Correct. You know it's endogenous rather than exogenous. So
I never knew that.
And that's why we resist a lot of exogenous treatments, and a lot of our medical treatments don't work. Anyway, so there's a bunch more I could go on, but I think that a lot of, you see this in cancers where a lot of bacteria show up, like the Epstein-Barr virus shows up in a lot of cancers. And, now it seems like the gut microbiome influences so many things. Basically, bacteria and viruses are at the top of the food chain compared to us. Like, we are top of the well-known food chain, but bacteria and viruses eat us. Fungus eats us. So these microscopic predators are our natural predators. And so a lot of aging, societal structure, hygiene, religious strictures against pork, circumcision, all of these things, these are all designed to resist bacteria and viruses. So if you can teach children this philosophy at an early age, you shortcut all the debates.
How effective have you been at teaching that philosophy to children?
That one, I think I've been pretty effective. I've drilled that one at home. The one I haven't quite gotten around to yet is evolution. Like, I'm starting to do little bits of that, like we came from monkeys. What does that mean? Already got them thinking about some of the deeper questions. I did ask my, young son, like, can nothing exist? I thought that was a fun question. So I like to throw a fun question.
How old is he now? Like 4, 3?
No, he's 8.
Right.
An 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. So I asked them both, like, can nothing exist? And they had pretty good answers, right? Okay. Another one we played with the other day was like, what is the Matrix?
Okay.
What is this? Yep. What is all this?
Mm-hmm.
I just find it, and it's entertaining. It's just fun to talk about, right? To talk about these questions with your kids. I'm not saying that one is a good way of child raising. It's not leading to any deeper learning, other than maybe just have them start, or continue to question the basic structure of reality and not move past it so quickly.
Also, to take joy, what's the meta lesson that's being taught there? Dad spends time asking questions to which there are not necessarily an answer, because there is something enjoyable in the process of learning and trying to decipher what's happening.
Possibly. Also, Dad tries not too hard to teach people things. I don't want to be didactic.
He helps them to arrive at it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Dad is here to help you solve problems when you have problems, and you constantly have problems. So if you come to Dad can help explain to you how he would solve the problem. But most of the time, they don't want that. Most of the time, they just want most of the time they just want me to solve the problem. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes I just have to play it dumb. It's like, why is my Wi-Fi not working on my computer? I'm like, I don't know. Did you click on that thing?
Look, you've got like a rebellious sovereign child, sovereign as they may be, but sometimes they still need the dad to step in.
So in addition to feeling loved and having high self-esteem, I think the most important trait that would be nice to not rob them of is agency. I want them to preserve their agency. They're born naturally agentic and willful, but a lot of child raising can beat that out of them by essentially domesticating them.
Constraint.
And I would rather have wild animals and wolves than have well-trained dogs, because I'm not going to be around to take care of them.
Yeah, so they're going to